Welcome back, everybody. We're looking back in time at some of our legends. Today we're talking about Jack Potter. Jack joined us in 68, 69.
Correct, yes.
After a huge career at Fitzroy with Victoria and of course internationally, where he participated in some touring teams.
Yes, he did.
The intriguing thing about Jack to start with is, how did he get to Preston?
Interesting to speculate. I can't give you exactly how that happened. Jack did grow up early on. I think he lived in Kinsale Street, which is up near Chris Park in Reservoir. He'd had a very successful period and was seen as a person who, as a captain, particularly at the state level, could get more out of his players than most. And he had a wonderful year when they won the Shield in 66, 67, with pretty much a very raw and inexperienced group of players. But Jack moulded them and got the best out of them, and they won the Shield. And then he was captain the next year, and he retired from the state captaincy mid-year. Even after, I think his last match he played interstate, he made a century. But Jack was very easygoing about his talent, and I think he went on the 64 tour to England and had a serious injury on a match that was played in the Netherlands on sort of matting surfaces. And Jack was not a great back foot player. It wasn't a hooker or cutter of the ball so much as a front foot and wonderful driver. And he got hit, and very unfortunately for him, the hit in the head meant that he had to come home. Missed play. Well, the Test match series had finished, but the players who didn't play in the Tests actually went on to play on the subcontinent, because the Australians had a sort of series where they moved to the continent to play, and all the players in that series, apart from Jack, who did not play in the Tests, played on the subcontinent. They were given the experience, and so from Jack's point of view, he missed out on playing Test cricket. He was, I think, nominated 12th man 2 or 3 times, but never actually played. And I think after that, he struggled with anything that was a short ball. But very unfortunate and very talented.
Yes. Made a lot of runs for Victoria over an illustrious career.
Over 5,000.
Yes.
And one of only 6 in all to do it. Don't ask me. I could probably have a go at who the other six might be, but Laurie would be in that.
Yes. So a massive coup following Ray Harvey to get Jack to the club.
It was great. And interestingly enough, we were starting to develop a bit of a link with Fitzroy. We picked up Lynn Straw in the 50s, who came to us. The one thing Jack did for us when he retired in 71, 72, we only got 4 years out of him, was he gave us Dick Telford. He was the direct link with Dick, and we got Dick to Preston. But from our point of view, Jack retiring in 1972, he's only 34, even with us. He could have played
for another
5 or 6 years. But
easy.
There were other things in his mind, and I think he'd had enough of the intensity of cricket and what have you.
He was a classic batsman, one of the most elegant drivers you could ever imagine. Famous for his square drive.
Yes, he actually batted with the bat slightly open more. You know, we tend to tuck the bat in behind our knee, but Jack opened the bat a bit more so that it meant that when he hit the ball, he was hitting a squarer drive than he was hitting a cover drive.
Yes. he was his knowledge of the game was immense. He could look. I remember I played one season with him. He could look at the batter's grip or the position of their footwork and move the field according to that, and
Yes.
and communicate that to the bowlers. Tactically he was unbelievable.
Yes, he had a feel for the game, and I think the interesting thing that we found with Jack was that he wasn't entirely comfortable with the rules.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things he said to me was, every time you're playing in the team, you're looking after the rules. I expect you to look after that, and I'll look after other things. But he also said to me, the thing that he found difficult was that when he had a state team, he had a team.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew the order they batted in, bowled in and fielded in, and he said, I just pulled a few stunts here and there, and he said, not stunts, but he said I sort of went into tactical businesses, but he said, when you're running a sub-district team, he said, I've got one good bowler, one good batsman, two good fieldsmen, and I've got to try and make everything work with the rest of them.
Right.
So, and it's an interesting point. But he said, I really learnt a lot about captaincy when I came to a club like at a lower level.
Yeah.
Mind you, I mean, he had Alan Connolly in those days.
Yes.
Alan was quite a unit too, and very handy to have.
Yeah, excellent bowler. Jack was also, on the surface, a very happy sort of guy. He was enthusiastic. He always spoke well to players.
Yes. Well, he fancied the races a bit, and even in those days, it was not unheard of for someone to have a transistor with them out on the field. And one was never sure whether Jack was listening to the race or doing what he should have been.
Yes, that's right. He also was a handy bowler. He, once again, bowled leggies. Probably didn't bowl himself enough in the season I was with him.
You're right.
He bowled I could never pick it, a flipper or a dooserer or something. Which,
absolutely. He didn't value his bowling. He actually was a better bowler than he would give himself credit for.
Yeah.
But we played Geelong one time when Phil Marshall and Mackenzie were there, and they got 100 against us on that day. We'd done all right. We'd made 200 plus, but they absolutely beat us at Preston. And Jack bowled that day with a bit of urging from the rest of us, and he got mauled, and he lost confidence after that. He also said he wouldn't bowl.
Right.
But he should have stuck at it. It would have been a very handy alternative. Yeah.
The side was very good because it had a mixture of some older guys, but a lot of emerging blokes who were at the club for a long time, sort of started off in that sort of era.
Yeah, Robbie Morgan was probably at the peak of that, but others came in too.
Yeah, Gary Moore, I think.
Gary Moore was true.
Howgate was another. Eddie, of course.
Yes, Eddie came. I think Jack had the first year, and then Eddie came the second. And I think a lot of it had to do with Jack.
Yes.
Mind you, Eddie had an outstanding sporting schoolboy career at Marceline.
Yes.
And I think he might have had a year or two on the hard wickets in
The Heidelberg district
comp.
on the Malfoy.
Yep. And then Jack, I know Jack was instrumental in the coup
Securing him.
The other thing that happened in Jack's period was the amalgamation, so-called, when Fitzroy, under Bill Jacobs and Arthur Liddicoat, who were the two delegates, made representation to Preston to merge. And the Preston committee divided over it, and it was kept from some of the younger ones. I was on the committee, but we weren't exactly told about it. And there was a very big push from Preston then to go into the merge, which would have brought Fitzroy, who were under great pressure from the council, that would have brought them from the Fitzroy ground. The only problem was Jacobs and Liddicott had done all this on their own. They hadn't told their own committee, and their own committee not only reacted very strongly to it, they removed Jacobs and Liddicott from the VCA,
Right.
which immediately meant that Bill was disqualified from joining any future Australian teams to manage, or state teams, or being involved in any representation for Fitzroy. So the VCA had to react in a way that brought Bill back into a situation.
Because he subsequently became secretary for a long time, didn't he?
Well, that was his son, Ken.
Oh, Ken, that's right,
But
yes.
Bill, he was an interesting character too, but that fell through, and that was in Jack's period.
Okay.
Not that I think, not suggesting for a minute that Jack had anything to do with it, but it was
Interesting.
one of the more interesting things that happened.
The team's success under Jack, my first year we made finals. Did we make finals any other year under Jack?
I think we made finals 2 out of the 4.
4, okay.
The problem was we ran into other teams who were very strong, particularly Ormond.
Yes.
Ormond won 8 premierships in 10 years, and they had such a good team with Alan Doble, John Craig, Cole Highland, Jack Zimmer, and they just were near enough to unbeatable. And of course Wildsmith was playing then, and he was getting 100 wickets in a season, and he was with Sunshine. So Sunshine won one of those premierships.
Okay.
So we had a very competitive unit with Jack and Robbie Morgan, Brent Paul, Brian Pert played a couple of those years.
Yes. George Bushlenko.
George Bush, yeah. George played an outstanding innings in one occasion, and that was the year he won the batting average. Just pipped Jack Potter.
Yes. Jack was such a player, of course, that the team relied heavily on him. If he made a big score, we were certain to win. If he was dismissed cheaply, of course, it was a massive blow to the team, wasn't it?
It's interesting how you can rely on somebody when perhaps their talent can be a bit undone by, say, a good delivery or an unusual delivery, and it can change the complexion, or an umpiring error. But in those days, the wickets were the bigger problem. The umpires weren't. The umpiring standard was very high. That's reversed a bit in recent years with covers. And I think if the game has a real issue, it's with its standard of umpiring.
Yeah. Jack's record with the club in that 4 years. Yeah. He won the batting average 3 out of the 4. 3 out of the 4, correct. Yeah.
He averaged the same as Ray Harvey, 37.8.
Right, remarkable.
And Ray and Jack both got well over 2,000 runs and were sort of right up there in terms of the best batsmen in the comp. Yes.
He was club champion a couple of times?
Yes, he was. And not only that, he played over 100 games for Fitzroy and university. He went to uni for a couple of years and qualified as an accountant. I have to tell you this story. Jack wasn't too keen on doing the books, and there was an occasion there where he was treasurer of some association or whatever, and he turned up at my place at about 9 o'clock at night and said, "Look, can you do the books for me?" And I said, "Well, I can. When do you want them?" And he said, "Well, the meeting's on Thursday and this is Tuesday night, so could you do it by Thursday morning?" And I was going to work, of course. But anyway, we did, one way or another. And I said, "Jack, it might be an idea if you concentrate on cricket more and give the books away to someone else." But he was a keen punter, and we had a few of them, not least Pusher. And in the last year of Jack's tenure, we had a mate of his, Kevin Carroll.
Yes, we did.
And Kevin had a transistor down his sock, and Jack would not let him feel too far away. So we always thought Kevin would have been better fielding at fine leg, but Jack wanted him close so he can hear the result.
A wonderful player was Jack. The club was indeed very lucky to secure somebody who captained Victoria, won the Shield in 1 year and played with us the next year. That's not going to happen too often, I suspect.
Well, he actually missed a year. 66-67 was the Shield year, and he retired in the midway through the 67 season of interstate cricket. Still played with Fitzroy, and then came across to us. And Lorna was his first wife, was a Preston lass anyway. Jack had really grown up in the Thornbury area and done very well as a natural talent in the churches. So, and then went straight to Fitzroy, so we didn't get to see him.
Well, thank you, Richard. Talking about these legends, Jack being certainly one of them, with his record and what he delivered into the club.
Yeah, it was a great period. We shouldn't lose sight of that history, and I'm more than willing to see what we can try and do to pick up on it, so that the current players get a bit of an idea of where it all comes from. I think one of the ideas I just thought of when we were talking about the first premiership under Ray Harvey, it's a big golden, 60th anniversary in 2 seasons' time. So we'll have to give some thought as to how we commemorate. That'll be interesting. That'll be good. Just even if there's not a lot of people there who actually remember the time, but if we can get some of the events of what happened through that period, and just let some of the players learn from that, that'd be great.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Richard. It's been an absolute delight to see you this afternoon.
Thanks, Lee. I appreciate it.